Welcome to Module 14, where we will dissect communication principle number 6, intention. There are two elements to consider when talking about intention. The first is how people interpret your intentions based on their perception of you, driven by your past behaviors, which form your reputation, including the energy behind your actions. Intention is a very undermined yet significant form of communication. It's both a conscious and subconscious exchange of information, and especially when it comes to determining who somebody is at their core. We all know people with solid reputations, and we trust them. We would do business with them. We would follow them as leaders too. We've also known somebody who has a bad reputation, and by default, they are hard to trust. The bad reputation might come from hearsay or due to a series of not so ethical choices they've made in the past. Due to their past behaviors, if there is any doubt whether they did something out of malice, their claim of innocence is now hard to believe because the current alleged behavior is consistent with past transgressions and their reputation. And we judge people in big part based on what we've experienced from them before. Their behavioral patterns. A person's behavioral patterns are perhaps the truest form of communicating who they really are under all the facades of cleverly selected words they might have in their vocabulary. And this is how people judge you too, based on your reputation, your character, your actions, and your patterns of behavior. Unfortunately, conclusions or judgments based on past behaviors doesn't mean it's accurate. But remember the George Bernard Shaw quote, "The greatest problem of communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished." Sometimes the signals are crossed. Perhaps you can relate to a time when you've evaluated a situation based on somebody's past behaviors and reputation, or maybe you've had your intentions misunderstood based on what people knew of you or had heard about you. Being misunderstood nonetheless is not a great feeling. How can we avoid having our intentions incorrectly perceived or judged? To optimize these challenges, be as honest as you possibly can because the answers are purely for you. Question number 1. Based on your character and reputation, are your intentions generally understood correctly? Yes or no? Question number 2. Is the perception of others in alignment with who you know yourself to be? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, well played, stay calm and carry on. Your authenticity is shining through and people perceive you correctly. If the answer was no, why do you think that is? Analyze the difference between the person you know yourself to be and the people's perception of who they think you are. The odds are the two aren't exactly the same, and that's okay. To help bridge that gap between how your intentions or character is perceived and what your true essence is, ask yourself if anything in your behavior needs to change, making you more accurately perceived and understood. This element of self-awareness or emotional intelligence will have an impact on your relationships moving forward. And the objective of this communication course is in big part to improve your relationships by inviting strong and meaningful, authentic connections that bring value to all involved. And by the way, if your intentions are misunderstood and you're okay with that, stay calm and carry on, though it might make present and future relationships challenging. The second part of communication principle number 6, intentions, are the intentions that you set, as in the issues and behaviors that you are focusing on and working on in order to achieve specific outcomes that you desire. You are the master of your intentions. You have full control based on your sense of purpose, your goals, objectives, behaviors, desires, fears, doubts, and expectations. I highly recommend being very intentional with who you are, very intentional with how you show up, and very intentional in how you interact. Be extremely intentional when it comes to identifying and connecting to your sense of purpose. What is your North Star? What is your why, as Simon Sinek would ask? Needless to say, be intentional with your communication. I'm going to repeat that. Be intentional with your communication. Be intentional with your relationships. Be intentional with your listening. Be intentional with your empathy. Let's take a look at an intention setting guide. It's a powerful strategy that will heavily impact your life and the outcomes of your choices and your desires. The best advice that I can give regarding intentions is set your intentions by writing them down. I generally write them down the night before so that I'm ready to start the day when I wake up. In particular, if I'm delivering a keynote or an employee development training or an online curriculum such as this one. For those specific situations, I have 4 recurring intentions. Number 1, my intention is to bring value by informing, inspiring, and entertaining. Number 2, my intention is to help people reach higher. Number 3, my intention is to be authentic and giving. And number 4, my intention is to empower people by making them feel good about themselves. I'd now like you to list 2 or 3 very direct and meaningful intentions you do set or will begin setting. Take the circumstance into consideration. Is it customer service related? Is it a leadership intention? Is it an intention that impacts your personal life, your relationships at home? I also set general intentions. For example, I'm committed to doing that little extra. Why that little extra? According to Jimmy Johnson, former Miami Dolphins head coach, he said this: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. Consistently doing that little extra is a big component of a growth mindset. It's about continual and consistent improvement, and all it takes is that little extra. My intention. Number 2, I'm committed to being curious and learning. Number 3, I'm committed to being as concise, accurate, and as effective as possible with my communication. This will minimize misunderstandings, saving me time and optimizing the value that I can bring to others. What are your 2 to 3 general intentions? And add on top of that, what is the ripple effect as a result of you honoring those intentions? Number 1, set your intentions by writing them down. Number 2, keep them front of mind by using reminders. Establish ways to remind yourself by leveraging the support of friends and colleagues to keep you on track. The more clearly defined your intentions are, the more you will show up and behave with integrity. And one of the strongest reputation building traits is to have integrity. Integrity inspires trust. The more integrity you have, the less people will misinterpret your intentions, streamlining relationships and strengthening connections. Rapport. And that concludes part 1 of communication principle number 6, intentions.